You know what most women don't realize? That one of the most powerful things you can say to a man, the kind of thing that sticks in his mind long after the conversation ends, isn't loud, flashy, or dramatic. It's subtle. It's quiet confidence. It's when you say something that touches not just his heart, but his ego. And I don't mean that in a manipulative or fake way. I mean speaking to the part of him that wants to feel like he's the guy in your eyes. That rare combination of being impressive and yet still real. Because for a man to fall hard, to really get caught up thinking about you long after you've walked away, he needs to feel like you see something in him that other people miss. Let me give you a scenario. You're sitting across from him, the energy's great, and you look him dead in the eye, just for a second, and say something like, "There's just something about the way you think it's addictive." Do you know what that does to a guy? That kills him. In the best way. That moment gets burned into his brain. You didn't just say, "You're smart," or "You're interesting." You went a level deeper. You told him that the way his brain works does something to you. That his mind is attractive, not just his body, not just his job, not just the surface stuff. That right there is emotional kryptonite. Because here's the truth, men. Yes, even confident ones, even successful ones, rarely feel seen. Most of their interactions are either superficial or performance-based. They're told they're good at what they do, not who they are. And then suddenly you come along and say something, there's something incredibly powerful about the way our brains work when it comes to attraction. We don't just fall for people because they're good, looking, or fun to be around. We fall for people who make us feel something, and more importantly, for the people who leave a mark on us. And one of the most overlooked tools you have to create that kind of impact. It's what I call a memory hook. A small, seemingly simple sentence or moment that gets lodged in his brain and loops on repeat. Something that, even days later, keeps popping back into his mind when he least expects it. That's how you stay on his mind without chasing, without trying, without needing to constantly be around. You let your words do the work for you. Here's the thing, most conversations are forgettable. Let's be honest, we all go on dates or have chats that feel nice, pleasant, maybe even fun, but a week later, we can't remember a single thing that was said. So if you want to stand out, if you want to be the person he can't stop thinking about, you need to create a moment that interrupts the pattern. Something emotionally sticky. That's what a memory hook does. Imagine this, you're with him, you're vibing, you're both laughing, and then you say something like, "I haven't laughed like this in forever, you do that to me." It's playful, it's light, but it's not meaningless. What you just did is connect a very positive feeling, joy, fun, ease, directly to him. And even if he doesn't say anything in the moment, even if he just smiles and keeps the conversation moving, trust me, that line lands. Later that night, he'll be brushing his teeth or driving home, and that sentence will hit him again. "You do that to me." You've just tied his presence to something emotionally fulfilling. And our brains don't let go of that easily. It's not about making grand declarations or being overly emotional. You don't need to say, "You're amazing," or "I think I'm falling for you." That kind of stuff comes across too heavy too soon. But saying something specific that places him at the center of a moment you're enjoying, that's subtle, elegant, and way more effective. People remember how you make them feel, and when you put those feelings into words and reflect them back to someone, it locks that moment in their memory like a favorite song. And it doesn't always have to be romantic or flirtatious either. Sometimes the most powerful hooks are the ones that are genuinely human. For example, maybe he tells a story about his family or about something he went through, and you say, "That explains a lot. You've got this quiet strength about you. I noticed it right away." Now you've created a different kind of memory, a deeper one. You've made him feel understood. That kind of recognition is addictive, not because it's manipulative, but because so few people actually do it. We live in a world of distractions, notifications, short attention spans, surface-level conversations, and when someone cuts through the noise and really sees us, that moment sticks. That's what you're giving him. And what's beautiful is that you don't need to be loud or constantly in touch for that moment to linger. A well-placed sentence can do more than hours of texting or countless hangouts. It's one line that echoes. Here's another example. Let's say you're out with him and you say something cheeky, something like, "Careful, I'm starting to associate you with good coffee and even better company." It's fun, it's light-hearted, and yet, he'll remember it. Why? Because it's unique. Because you're not just reacting to the moment, you're naming it. You're turning it into something meaningful. And this is the real secret to getting stuck in someone's head. You're not just experiencing the moment, you're narrating it in a way that makes it unforgettable. You're giving him language to describe what he's feeling around you, maybe even before he fully understands it himself. And once he hears you say it, once he sees that you're aware of the connection, you've instantly elevated yourself from just another date to someone who leaves an emotional imprint. But again, this isn't about overthinking it. You don't need a script. You just need to be present enough to notice the moment as it's happening, and then bold enough to say something real about it. Don't wait for the perfect time or try to be clever. Just be honest in a way that most people aren't. Say the thing. Say the small but meaningful line that no one else would. Say, "This is fun. I feel really relaxed around you." That doesn't happen often. Say, "You're kind of ruining me for other people, you know." Say whatever is true for you in that moment, and say it like it's not a big deal, because that's when it lands. And here's what's so magical about this. You only have to do it once or twice to make a massive impact. You don't need to fill every conversation with deep insights or poetic compliments. Just plant one or two of those hooks, and you'll find that he starts replaying them on his own. You'll become the thought that lingers, the feeling he associates with comfort, with fun, with depth, with something he can't quite explain, but knows he wants more of. That's how you stay on his mind long after the moment ends. You want to know a secret about attraction that no one tells you. It's that mystery, not games, not manipulation, but true, playful mystery, is one of the most magnetic things you can bring into a conversation. It's not about being emotionally unavailable or hard to read. It's about revealing just enough to draw someone in while still leaving room for their curiosity to do the work. That space, that gap between what they know and what they want to know, is where desire lives. That's where he starts thinking about you when you're not around, wondering what you're doing, what you're feeling, what it all meant when you looked at him and smiled but didn't quite explain why. Most people think if they want someone to like them, they should try to be as open and clear as possible. Tell them everything. Be super expressive. Lay it all out there. And while yes, vulnerability is powerful when it's real and well-timed, too much too soon can kill curiosity. And curiosity is everything in the early stages of attraction. If someone feels like they've already figured you out in the first hour, there's nowhere for the connection to go. There's no anticipation, no unfolding, no reason to lean in. But when you bring a little mystery into the interaction, when you give him a taste, not the whole story, you give him the gift of wanting more. Think about it like a movie trailer. The best trailers don't give away the whole plot. They drop just enough intrigue, just enough emotion to make you say, I have to see that. That's what you're doing in your conversations. You're not withholding. You're teasing, not to be coy or clever, but to invite him into the experience of discovering who you are. Let's say he compliments you. Instead of brushing it off or gushing with a thank you, try saying, "Oh, you have no idea," with a little smile. It's playful. It hints at layers he hasn't seen yet. Or maybe he says, "You seem different from other people I've dated." And instead of explaining why, you just look at him and say, "That's a conversation for another time." You haven't shut him down. You've opened a loop. You've planted a seed of curiosity that will keep growing in his mind until the next time he sees you. That is power. This kind of mystery also shows up in the way you tell stories. You don't need to tell every detail of your past or explain every nuance of how you feel. In fact, sometimes the most intriguing thing you can do is say something honest but incomplete. For example, "I learned a lot from my last relationship, mostly about what I don't want to compromise on anymore." That's a powerful sentence. It says a lot without spelling it all out. It invites him to wonder, what happened? What does she mean by that? Where did that strength come from? And then there's tone. Playful mystery often isn't in what you say. It's in how you say it. A raised eyebrow, a slow smile, a pause before delivering a line. That energy pulls people in. It makes the interaction feel more cinematic, more alive. If you're having fun with your own words, if you're teasing him just a little, if you're comfortable letting a little tension hang in the air without rushing to fill it, that's where the chemistry crackles. That's where he feels something he can't quite name and starts chasing the feeling. Now, here's the part most people miss. Mystery doesn't mean being cold. It's not about being distant or vague or hard to reach. That kind of energy just confuses people or makes them back off. The kind of mystery I'm talking about is warm. It's inviting. It has humor, confidence, and even a little flirtatious boldness. Think of it like this. You're not building walls, you're building doors, but they don't all open at once. You're letting him earn those deeper levels of connection. And when he feels like he's earning it, not being handed it on a silver platter, the value of that connection goes way up in his mind. Because here's the truth about human psychology. We don't value what we don't have to work for. If everything is instantly accessible, it doesn't feel special. But when someone feels like they're getting to uncover you, piece by piece, layer by layer, that's when they start investing emotionally. That's when they start prioritizing you. And that's when they fall. So don't be afraid to hold back a little. Not because you're playing games, but because you know your worth. You know that the right person will want to discover more of you. You know that a little mystery isn't a risk. It's a magnet. It keeps the connection alive, keeps the conversations charged, and keeps you on his mind long after the date is over. That's how you create the kind of intrigue he can't stop thinking about. There's something unbelievably intimate about hearing your own name spoken by someone you're attracted to. It's one of those small, easily overlooked things that has a massive emotional impact. And most people never even think about it. But if you want to leave a lasting impression on a guy, if you want him to feel connected to you in a way that tugs at him long after the conversation ends, say his name. Not too often, not mechanically, say it with intent. Say it when it matters. Because the truth is your tone, your timing, and the energy behind it can completely change the way he hears it and the way he experiences you. Think about it for a second. When someone says your name in just the right way, when it's soft, when it's flirtatious, when it catches you slightly off guard, it makes you feel seen. It creates a pause. It breaks through the noise of everything else going on in your mind. Suddenly, it's not just a conversation anymore. It's personal. It's emotional. It's real. You feel like this person isn't just talking. They're connecting. They're directing their energy specifically at you. And that's exactly what happens when you use his name at just the right moment. It disarms him. It snaps him into the present. You could be in the middle of joking around, telling a story, or even just walking side by side. And if you say his name with warmth, with a hint of softness or playful intensity, it's going to land in a very specific part of his brain that says, "She sees me." Now, this doesn't mean you start peppering his name into every other sentence like some kind of script. That actually does the opposite. It starts to sound robotic, or worse, manipulative. The real magic is in the timing. It's when you're already having a moment, already sharing laughter or a meaningful glance, and then you drop his name into the silence. You look at him and say something simple. Maybe just, "I like talking to you, Ethan," or "You're trouble, Jake," but in the best way, or even a low, curious, "Ryan," while holding eye contact just a little longer than usual. Those small moments, they change the game. Because what happens when you say his name like that is that you turn the interaction into a micro experience that sticks in his mind. It's not just what you said. It's that you said it to him. He didn't feel like one of many. He felt like the only one. His name, coming from your lips, becomes a kind of imprint. A trigger, a whisper he'll remember when he's lying in bed later, thinking about you. It also creates a beautiful contrast. Most of our day-to-day communication is fast and impersonal. We get messages, replies, comments, but very little of it feels emotionally directed at us. So when you slow it down and say his name in a way that feels deliberate, intentional, and emotionally charged, you disrupt the usual flow. You give the moment weight. And it's not about being dramatic, it's about being real. Present. In the moment with him. And here's something most people don't realize: a man's name is deeply tied to his identity. He's been hearing it his whole life, but not always in a way that feels affirming or attractive. Sometimes it's tied to authority, correction, or formality. But when you say it with a twinkle in your eye, with flirtation, affection, or admiration in your voice, you redefine it. You turn it into something soft, something magnetic. Suddenly, his name becomes something beautiful because it's being said by you. There's also a confidence that comes with using his name that's incredibly attractive. It shows you're not afraid of intimacy. You're not tiptoeing around the connection. You're leaning into it. It says, "I'm aware of this moment. I'm owning it. And I'm not afraid to show that I'm engaged with you." That's rare, and people remember rare. He'll remember you. Even in text. By the way, this still works. You don't need to overdo it. Just drop his name in a message when you're sharing something fun or reflecting on a moment you had together. Something as simple as, "You really cracked me up today, Chris," can stick with him more than an entire paragraph of compliments. Again, it's about the emotional tone. It's about making him feel like this wasn't just some fun interaction. It was his moment with you. And the best part, you don't need to change who you are or try to be overly seductive. You just need to become aware of the power of presence. Because when you say his name in a way that feels intentional, like you mean it, Or like you're not just saying it out of habit. You instantly elevate the emotional temperature. You go from being part of his day to being the part he keeps replaying in his head. So don't underestimate the impact of that one simple word. Used at the right moment, with the right energy, it becomes unforgettable. That's how you turn a name into a feeling. And that's how you make sure you are the one he can't stop thinking about. One of the most underrated ways to get inside a man's mind and stay there is to make him imagine a future with you without even realizing he's doing it. Not by asking, where is this going? Or talking about relationship timelines, but by dropping in playful, light, almost throwaway comments that make him see what life with you could look like. These aren't heavy conversations about commitment. They're subtle fantasies, and when done right, they create emotional buy-in before either of you have even labeled what this is. Think about it like this: when someone pictures themselves with you in the future, even just for a moment, it creates a mental shift. It tells their brain, this person could be a part of my life. That's powerful. And the beauty of it is, you don't have to push or plan. All you have to do is suggest, lightly, casually, as if it's no big deal. But it is. Because now, you're not just someone he's attracted to. You're someone he's mentally inviting into his world. Let's say you're talking about travel, and you say something like, "You know what I can totally see was getting lost in some random Italian village, eating gelato, and pretending we know how to speak the language. It's fun. It's cheeky. But what you've just done is create a scene, a visual. He's not just hearing words, he's seeing you there, next to him. And that image plants a seed. That's the stuff he'll be thinking about when he's alone. Not because it was some big emotional moment, but because it felt real. And he liked how it felt. You don't have to travel to make this work. It can be something as simple as, you'd probably kill it at game night with my friends. You've got just the right amount of sarcasm to survive. Or, I have a feeling you'd be the one hogging all the blankets if we ever had a Netflix night. It's teasing, it's playful, it's not serious, but it builds a bridge. You've just inserted him into a version of your life that's cozy, intimate, and fun. And here's the thing: when you speak like that, without pressure or expectation, it allows him to lean into the fantasy without feeling trapped. Most people are terrified of moving too fast or scaring someone off. But this isn't scary. It's fun. It's safe, because you're not asking him to make it real right now. You're just putting a picture in his head, and his mind does the rest. People fall for experiences they want to have. If you create moments in conversation that feel emotionally rich, even if they're imaginary, it builds connection. It's almost like a romantic preview. And even if he didn't realize he was craving something deeper, now that you've introduced it in such a subtle, playful way, it lingers. He'll find himself circling back to it in his thoughts. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. This works even better when you make the fantasy about both of you. Not just what you want, but how he would show up in it. For example, you strike me as the type who'd insist on carrying all the bags during a vacation, like a gentleman/control freak. You're not just giving him a role, you're complimenting him while pulling him into your shared daydream. It flatters his instincts and makes him feel like a part of something exciting. And the beauty of it, he doesn't even clock it as a tactic. It feels organic. It feels like two people just imagining things together. But underneath that surface, something deeper is happening. He's starting to see you in the context of his life. He's starting to feel something that goes beyond the moment. You're also showing that you're emotionally open without being emotionally needy. You're someone who enjoys connection, who's comfortable with a little intimacy, but you're not trying to lock anything down. That combination, warmth without pressure, is irresistible. It tells him, being with me would feel good and safe and easy. And when a man starts to feel that, that's when he starts to chase, because now it's not just about attraction, it's about experience. It's about the life you represent, the emotional safety, the fun, the feeling of being seen, but also being invited into something that doesn't require a contract, just a little imagination. And here's what's wild: once that seed is planted, it tends to grow all on its own. He'll start adding to the story in his head. What would it be like to cook with her? Take her to that wedding next month? Wake up next to her? These thoughts don't always show up consciously, but they show up, and they create a gravitational pull. He doesn't know why you're on his mind so much. He just knows he can't stop picturing you there. That's how you guide a man into emotional investment, without ever asking him for it. You want to know one of the most disarming, unexpected things you can say to a man that will stick with him long after the moment passes? Compliment his mind, not his body, not his style, not even his success, his mind. Because here's the truth: a lot of guys hear they're attractive. They hear they're funny, charming, maybe even that they're good in bed. But very few of them hear that their intellect, their way of thinking, their perspective is sexy. That's the kind of compliment that hits different. It goes deeper. It lingers. See, when you tell a man that the way he thinks is intriguing to you, it lights up a part of him that most people don't bother to see. It tells him that you're not just attracted to the surface, you're turned on by who he is. And that's rare. That's magnetic. That makes you stand out in a way he can't ignore. Let's say you're in the middle of a conversation and he shares an opinion about something. Anything, really. It could be something he's passionate about, or something he's analyzing, or even just a theory he has about people. And instead of saying, "That's cool," or "I never thought about that," you pause, smile, and say, "That's actually kind of sexy, the way you think about things." You've just changed the entire vibe. You've taken the moment from casual to electric. He might not say much, but inside, his brain just lit up like a Christmas tree. Because here's what you've really done: you've made him feel seen. Not for the way he looks, not for what he has, but for how his mind works, for the thing he's been cultivating his whole life, his thoughts, his beliefs, his unique take on the world. And you didn't just acknowledge it. You admired it. That strikes right at the heart of emotional attraction. Men, just like women, crave to be understood, not just accepted, but valued. And when you let him know that his way of thinking, his insight, his inner world, actually affects you, actually draws you in, you unlock something in him that not many people do. You stop being someone he's flirting with and start becoming someone he wants to impress, someone he wants to go deeper with. Because you're tapping into more than attraction, you're activating connection. And this is where it gets even more powerful. The moment you show genuine curiosity about his thoughts, he begins to associate you with that safe space, that mental intimacy, that emotional ease. You're not just the one who gets him. You're the one who makes him feel smart. And I don't care how successful or confident a guy is, when he feels intelligent around you, when he feels appreciated intellectually, you create an energy that keeps pulling him back in. And no, you don't have to pretend to be interested in everything he says. That's not the point. This isn't about pretending or being overly impressed by basic things. It's about finding the moments where you genuinely are intrigued, where his insight catches you off guard a little, and reflecting that back to him with honesty. You could say something like, "I love the way your mind works," or "That's such an interesting way to look at it. I wouldn't have thought of that." And if you want to be a little bolder, try, "I wasn't expecting you to be this deep. It's kind of messing with me." Playful, unexpected, and oh, so effective. Even better, when you combine this with some of the other things we've talked about, using his name, creating mystery, planting future fantasies, it amplifies everything. You're creating a whole sensory experience, a mix of emotional stimulation, curiosity, and validation that gets him hooked on you. Not just on the way you look, but on the way he feels when he's around you. And that feeling, that's what keeps him thinking about you at 1 a.m., staring at his ceiling, replaying the way you said, "I like how your mind works," because no one else said it. No one else saw him like that. And here's something else. When you compliment his mind, you elevate the conversation. You show him that you're a different kind of woman. Someone who values substance, not just style. Someone who isn't afraid to flirt with a man's intelligence. And that's attractive in a way that's hard to describe, but impossible to forget. You go from being a moment to being a memory. From someone he met to someone who meant something. Because the most lasting connections aren't built on surface-level validation. They're built on emotional recognition. And when you give that to him, when you make him feel understood, admired, even a little bit challenged, it awakens a desire in him to stay close, to go deeper, to know you better, because you've shown him that you're the kind of woman who sees what others miss. That's how you get into his head. And that's how you stay there.